Her Journey to Healing, Reaching Women with a Desperate Cry is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
So anxious resistant. So remember there were 4 categories, right? Mm-hmm. So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung to their caregivers, whether it's parents. When I say caregivers, I mean parents, grandparents, just old people in their lives who were, really part of that initial bonding experience. For these kids, they tended to have really exaggerated emotional reactions to stuff, but they also kept the distance from their peers. How did this translate into adulthood? That translated into anxious, preoccupied adults. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of formed less secure bonds with partners and feel really desperate for love and affection.
God is patient. God is kind. God is long-suffering. God never fails. God always hopes. God always trusts. God always perseveres. God doesn't envy. God doesn't boast. God doesn't seek his own, but is always seeking what's best for you. God rejoices in the truth.
That's right.
God doesn't define love. God demonstrates love.
There's a commercial that used to say, "Don't leave home without it." I think it was MasterCard. And at the end, they would say, "You couldn't put a price on it. A price could not be put on what you and your wife did for me this week." And I'm just praying that your ministry will continue to be the blessing to others as it has been to me this week. Just the opening of the eyes, just seeing God's word with a whole different set of lenses, just understanding what is required of us and laying aside the misnomers, the erroneous teachings, the errors, and just accepting who I am in Christ. And no one else could tell me who I am but the Word.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for hanging out with us all week long.
Thank you for being there with us.
Right. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monday Night with KW. Because if it's Monday night,
you are live with KW.
We are so excited to have you on tonight. Kamala, what are you celebrating today?
What am I celebrating today, family?
Kamala, no, we're not doing that again. That's what you celebrated last week.
Did I?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I can celebrate that more than once.
Okay, that's kind of a go-to now.
No, I was celebrating work stuff before that.
Okay.
All
right. I'm celebrating our dinner with Keisha this evening. I thought that was fun.
That was fun.
I enjoyed her company. I enjoyed chatting with her. I thought that was fun.
Yes.
Yeah. So how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I am doing okay. It was a challenging day at work, but you know what? I am celebrating those challenges.
Right.
Because when we have challenges, we learn and grow from them.
Right. And you know what James says? I find it funny to even repeat. James says we should be happy when we face varying many kinds of trials because they've only come to produce character in us. Hey, Christine, how are you? What kind of day are you having? What are you celebrating today, Christine? We're so excited to have you here with us tonight. Tell us what you're celebrating tonight.
And just for those of you who might be joining us for the very first time, we celebrate Mondays here at KW Ministries. And we're celebrating Mondays because Mondays historically, you know it, you felt it, you've probably said it yourself. Monday is that day that you're like, oh, I had to go back to work today. It's not a great day. But we're trying to revamp that because if we know that if we practice an attitude of gratitude, we know that we can literally change our lives. So we're revamping Monday to be a celebratory day.
And we're trying to change our whole mindset, there's certain things we've dismissed from our vocabulary. We don't call people sinners, right? And
That's
so
right.
we were traumatized because if you're a sinner, you're destined, the wages of sin is death. But if you're traumatized, then you need to get help.
Yeah.
So that's so we're changing the language. All right. Ooh, Christine is celebrating peace of mind.
That's a good one. And you know, Christine, honestly, I didn't understand that, especially when I was younger. My mom used to say something like that all the time, you know, thanking God for being in a right mind. And it's not until you're an adult sometimes you really realize what a blessing that is. So
You're celebrating
I am
peace of
glad you're
mind.
celebrating peace of mind.
Celebrating peace of mind also. That's good. That is good. That is good. Well, Kamala, what is it that we're doing here on Monday nights?
On Monday nights, we are jumping into the experiences of so many different people. And we're not just jumping into their experiences arbitrarily. What we want to know is what their journey has been. Where has life taken them? How have they done on that journey? And how are they still doing on that journey? Because we're all going through all kinds of different situations, challenges, things that are going really well. And this gives us an opportunity just to talk to each other and be real with each other about how hard some of those situations were, how we got through some of those situations, and how we're still navigating some of those situations.
And in Dr. Sullivan's case, how we get to some of those places.
Yeah.
I saw her, she would have posted sometime after our talk about being able to travel on points.
Yeah.
And so we went around the whole world with Dr. Sullivan. That was fun.
Yes, it was.
And we felt like we were there with her. So that was good.
Yeah.
And then last week, Elder Phillips talked to us about preparing for school.
Yes.
I had to miss a part of that. I'm so sorry. But that was good.
It really was. She talked about the whole preparation piece. Preparation not just for the students, but also for parents and also for teachers, and what it looks like to really get back into the mindset of being in the school year. And like everybody else that we talked to, she highlighted the importance of people and resources.
That's funny.
We get back there every single time.
That's good. And then so I'm really excited. I'm excited about the future. Dr. Williams, Keisha Williams, is coming back to us. Pastor Quinn Cousins is coming back to us. And then we have the sheriff of Mansfield, where my Memorial Seventh Adventist Church is. The sheriff, he and I spent almost 2 hours the other day, and he's agreed to sit down and talk with us. It was an amazing experience talking to him.
And for those of you who might be wondering where Mansfield is, we are broadcasting with you from Louisiana. So you're going to start to see a lot of our more local individuals who are coming on because we want to get that experience as well.
Yes. And the food here is, oh my gosh.
You wouldn't really know. I'll let him tell that part of the story.
Not tonight. So we have some brand new products. What time is it? We have some brand new products coming up that we want to share with you real quick. And okay, what do we have coming up? So Kamala is working on a project.
Journey to Healing, a therapeutic approach.
A Journey to Healing, a pastoral approach.
And in those, we are going through what might be familiar to some of you guys. If you have already checked out our seminar series of Journey to Healing, you might be familiar with modules like Drink My Water. And the whole point is finding ourselves through God. And you might be interested to know that that therapeutic approach also includes that. Yeah.
And so we have amped it up some. So there goes our landing page if you're interested to get early on it. And we're working on our devotional. This is our 5th devotional,
yes.
A journey through the Gospel of Matthew, lessons from Jesus. And it's really good so far.
Feel free to pre-order. Here's where I make my spiel. Feel free to pre-order. You do not have to stop listening to us to do that. You can go right on to that site. You will still be able to listen into it with us, and you can order stuff.
That's www.kwministries.net. But I think, though, Kamala, this might have its own site. if I'm not mistaken. I think this has its own side, but
It does, but I promise you, you can have
Annika,
tabs in multiple places. I'm
she'll
gonna
figure,
encourage you
she'll
to
get you
go.
there. She'll get you there.
Mhm.
All right, so we want to say welcome again, and tonight, oh, I'm so excited about our guest tonight. I think I just woke up. I am so excited about our guest tonight. Our guest is my cousin. She's my wife cousin. Not my wife's cousin, my wife cousin. Right?
You might want to explain what you mean.
No, they heard me right. I didn't stutter. She's my wife cousin. Yeah. Carrie is one of my best friends. We're cousins for real, like we're really blood. And we didn't meet until later in life, but once we met, man, we just connected. And she's brilliant. She's kind. She's smart. She has two amazing children. She's successful at what she does. And I'm just so excited to have her on.
Yeah. I'm tickled because I want to tell people that, the one very distinct voice that you hear in our pre-ads, that's Carrie.
And it was funny. We were getting ready to come. Kamala was, saying, "Hey, Carrie, you did." I was like, "Do you know who Carrie is? Carrie is actually in journalism. She does this for real, for real." So let's bring Carrie on and let's have a conversation with Miss Lorraine Mendez. Hey, cuz.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for your kind words. And thank you for having me on your program.
Carrie, please make it clear to them that you are my wife cousin.
Yes,
And that we're not making
I'm your
any.
cousin and your wife in the virtual world. Is that okay?
You know what? I'm about to disown you right now. You're about to get disowned, okay?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to stop you from committing an offense on air
On air, right?
because you're not allowed to have more than one wife
Oh,
legally.
you're trying to save my ministry.
I'm
Save him from
saving you.
himself.
You're trying
I'm
to save my
saving you.
ministry. I am so Kamal and I are so excited to have you here with us, and we're excited about the conversation we're going to have. So, you're a young person.
Young-ish.
You're a young
I'm
person.
I'm on the cusp of when life begins.
There we go. I love it. I love it. I love it. I
it.
love it. How old were you when you had your first? How old were you when you had? Can I call her name?
Sure.
How old were you when you had Amira?
I was 26.
Ooh, that's young. That's about the same age. Yeah, same age. All right. So talk to us. How was that? How was that? Talk to us.
Well, I tried to prepare for
Did you bring
Amira.
pictures?
No, I'm sorry.
No, I should have asked.
Yeah, so I tried to prepare for Amira. I really wanted her, so when I decided that I was going to try to get pregnant in, I think it was April, so the baby would be born in January because her father's birthday is in January. Yeah, so I had it planned down to a science.
You did it for real.
I did. I tried. So she came on January 6th. His birthday is the 30th. So, well, I mean, it's the same month. Um, I tried to do everything. I read the literature. I joined I Am Pregnant Club on the internet. There was a website called I think it's iampregnant.com. It's no longer there, but I believe two people from that website I'm still friends with on Facebook. And yes, so I of course prayed. I had a mantra when I was preparing to have baby, and that mantra was no induction, no C-section. No induction because I heard it was really painful. The contractions are really painful when you're induced, and no C-section because that would have been very expensive. And the Lord answered my prayer. It was natural, a natural birth. The labor was not too long, and so there I was, a mother at 26, and I had an easy, I would say an easy pregnancy, and they would call it a textbook pregnancy. Labor and delivery was not terrible. I wouldn't say I did not feel pain. I felt pain, a lot of it, but it was not terrible, and the baby was good. She's yes. So Amira is, I'd say, unproblematic. She did not give a lot of trouble in the sense of, parents can complain about their kids. Um, as a child, she liked reading and so on.
Hold on, you're going too far. I want to go back to pre-birth because
Okay.
you said some stuff. You prepared, you
Yes, that's
planned.
exactly where I was
Okay,
thinking.
you go ahead, mom, because I found that interesting and I wanted to.
So, I mean, we both found it very interesting. My thought process around it was I know this idea of preparation is probably going to be a theme throughout this conversation.
The
And
hashtag
so,
prepare for your baby.
so my question to you was going to be how did you
No to prepare.
know to prepare? Like,
Yeah.
what was the experiences leading up to that that told you that this experience of parenting was something that you had to prepare systematically for?
Yeah.
Well, that is a good question because I like to say, and I believe it's something I read somewhere, that none of us is really, you could read all the literature you want, but none of us is really fully prepared for parenting until you become a parent.
Mm-hmm.
How did I know to prepare? I think I'm someone who likes to read. If there is something to read upon about um, any subject at all,
Mm-hmm.
then I would definitely try because there are people who have experiences that I could draw on. So that's why I said, yeah, I would prepare. And my circumstances at the time, I got married pretty young. I got
Mm-hmm.
married at 20. So I also said I would wait 5 years before I had a child. Um, then I got a job in April 2007. And for you to get maternity leave with pay, you'd have to be working for a year.
She has this down
Yeah, then
pat.
yes, I did plan. So I said, all right, then I couldn't get pregnant until 2008 because then I'd be there for a year, and that's what I did, and that's what happened. We haven't gotten to my son, who
Mm-hmm.
I became pregnant with my son when my daughter was 7 months old. I did not prepare for him at all. I like to say I don't know where he came from. He's 13 now, so I wouldn't want him to hear this, but I really, I really don't know where he came from. And that, I mean, yeah,
No,
I
you
know,
were a
but
pro by then.
I
It
know.
wasn't that you weren't prepared. You were a pro.
I'd say yeah, I was, but it really was difficult having two under two. But
Yeah.
I know we're not there yet, so we can go back if you want me to. Um, there's this
But
really
I'm
good.
still not done with the preparation though,
Sure,
mom.
I knew you
Because
were gonna say that.
right,
Okay,
but no, and I'm gonna leave it here. What I'm gonna ask you for, um, and Elder Phillips is saying that her and her husband did the very same thing in preparing the date for the child. What I do want to ask you to do though, Carrie, is talk to young couples that are just getting married, or thinking about having children, and then I'll leave it after that. Could you just talk to young people who are just getting married and are thinking about having children?
all right. So in Jamaica, we have. I hope I'm quoting this proverb right, but it says if the fish goes to the bottom of the river and tells you that the crocodile has teeth or something like that, you should believe the fish. What it means is there are people who are experienced that you can listen to them, you can listen to their
Yes.
experiences
Mm-hmm.
without having to face it for yourself.
Yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at the time, the convention is you should wait as a young couple, you should wait before having children.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe other people could say otherwise based on their experiences, but I believe those are some wise words. So that's what I would say to a young couple. If it is possible and you can wait maybe 2 3 years, or even maybe not as long as 5 years, but certainly not in the first year, if it's
Mm-hmm.
possible for you to wait before becoming pregnant, then that'd be a good idea for you to do, because a child really changes your life. It changes the dynamics of your marriage. So it's something that you really ought to prepare for.
Mm-hmm.
And then talk to us some about And Elder Phillips is agreeing with you. Yes, at least a couple of years. Then talk to us. Give us some of the tips for preparation. Just a list of some of the tips that you mentioned for preparation. I just thought. I'm sorry. I was just really impressed
Mm,
because we didn't prepare
hmm.
at all.
No, I don't say that.
We
I
didn't.
just
Oh,
I
that's the
just
truth
said
now. That the Lord loves.
I just read the literature that was available. There is a book by the American Pediatric Society. Andrews Memorial Hospital in Jamaica, which is an Adventist institution, was giving it away for free. I think it says caring for your baby birth to five
Yes.
Yeah,
years.
that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I found that very interesting, and it enabled me to know that my child was hitting the milestones and
Mm-hmm.
so on. Because as a new parent, you really are going into this blind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I found that even with the pregnancy, when I asked my relatives, some of them who had kids like a year old, they're like, "Oh, I don't remember." I don't remember. And that is reasonable. Because if they're not pregnant at the same time that you're pregnant, they're like, "Oh, no, I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't
Yeah.
remember." So it was good for me to have the material, the resources to read, to draw, and to know that, all right, this is normal. Maybe this is not so normal. I should get this checked out and so on.
That's
So
good.
I would say read whatever literature is there. I would say it's okay to speak with people who have experienced it, but just knowing that at the end of the day, you are choosing for yourself what it is that you want to do. And I think that's very important because as much as people can give you guidance and so on, there some people may do things differently. There are some things that you may not agree with. So
I
so
love it.
yeah, take the advice, but just know that okay, this is what I want.
Yeah.
That's good.
Elder Phillips earlier said parenting
Parenting
is
is.
on the job training.
That's
And so
right.
I'm thinking about, I know that we're headed in the direction of parenting teenagers, but still looking at it from this preparation lens. I know that before you got to the teenage years, there were several things throughout that time period that helped prepare you for where you are now.
And specifically in your context, having two babies
Under
because it's
two.
not you had two babies,
Yeah,
a
I did.
brand new job. So talk, guide us through how, well, or take us back to how you maneuvered that new lifestyle, that new life.
As someone in the comments is saying,
Mm-hmm.
think about childcare and the cost, and that is true, because you will find, and I mean, now I have teenagers, as you say, one's 14, one's 13, so it seems like many years ago they were babies. So I'm just trying to jog my memory. But childcare for babies is really expensive. I find it's unregulated also, so people can charge whatever it is that they want to charge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's something you have to think about. You have to think about who will look after the child when you're going to work. You have to think about diapers. You have to think about formula, feeding babies, because babies, I mean, they don't eat everything that we would eat, not as
Mm-hmm.
yet. So their diet is very specific. So those are things that you would need to talk about. But did you ask me a specific question? I'm
Yeah, I
sorry, I
was
forgot the
saying
question.
you're fine, hon. I was saying what Kamala was saying before we get to teenage years, there had to be that those there were those younger years, and I was saying I was adding to hers within your particular context with two young kids and new job. Take us back to how you maneuvered all that.
All right. So family, the support of family was very important
Here
in
goes
my.
people
Yeah,
again.
people, yeah. In my context. So I had my mom, I had my sisters, even my brother who would come over sometimes and assist me in terms of getting them ready for preschool. You
Mm-hmm.
know, children, my son was not a fan of waking up early and taking a shower. So he was always crying and fussing. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of patience. I told myself, you know what? I think God has given me this boy for me to learn patience. He really tried my patience as a young
Mm-hmm.
child. He
Mm-hmm.
certainly did. And yeah, the support of family was. crucial.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, no, well, back then it was harder than it is now. But looking back at it, despite the fact that the second child was not planned, I don't think I would have done it any other way because I see them growing up together.
Together.
They're close,
Mm-hmm.
and I like that for them.
Yeah. How do you think that happened? The fact that they grew up close, they have that kind of
Because it's
relationship.
not every sibling that has that
That's
story.
true. That's true. Um, hmm, that is a very interesting question. I think part of it is their personalities, and another part of it is that they were just always together.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
So, Carrie, let's start now. And you have a beautiful one of the reasons why I asked Carrie to do this discussion with us is because you have a really good seat. You have that close in age, they're teenagers, so they would become teenagers almost at the very same time. And you have a boy, you have a male perspective and a daughter perspective. So which one do you want to take first? Let's go with
well,
the boy since he's already tried you as a
Parenting
young
teen-
one. So let's so
teenage boys.
let's go with the boy since he's already tried you.
um, hmm. I think my son is a typical one of the typical boys where people will say, "Oh, he prefers to be running up and down outside as opposed to reading a book." I know not all boys are like that. But yeah, Aaron is definitely a boy's, just like a typical boy. I had to supervise him, or I have to supervise him more closely as it relates to academics, ensuring that he does his homework. I find that he needs much more supervision in terms of academics than my daughter did. She's able to work on her own, and then I can just check to make sure that she got it right. But for him, I kind of have to be enforcing certain study patterns and certain rules. Um,
Let me ask you something, Carrie, because I know you read a lot. Do you see, and I have a 5-year-old boy that's coming, so I'm very interested in what you're saying about this. Do you see that this is a pattern where girls um, um, are more independent, are more apt to be self-motivated in their academics than boys? In your research and talking to other parents, is that what you've observed? Is that
okay, some other parents have told me that boys are like that, but there are others whose boys are inclined to academics right off the bat. What the common thread that I've gotten is that many boys are late bloomers.
Yes, I've
So
heard that.
I shouldn't be too worried. I should still ensure that I supervise the academics and
Of
that I
course.
ensure he does his schoolwork, but I shouldn't be too worried about the outcome
So,
because boys are late bloomers. That's what I've heard.
and that's what we have recognized in our children. The girls are doing way more advanced at Zach's age, and that is was that your experience from younger every step of the way?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
it
okay,
was.
all
It
right.
was
So,
for sure. So she was out of diapers long before he was. She stopped wetting the bed long before he did, and so on. But I believe they've caught up to each other. They caught up to each other probably. Mm, yeah, they did catch up to each other, maybe by age 6 and 7 or so. And
right.
right, and no, my 13-year-old boy is taller than me. He's taller than
Yes,
I
he
am.
is
He's taller than I
handsome
am.
young man.
He's taller than his sister. So he's gone past her, even though she's the firstborn.
Most boys are interested in sports or video games. Elder Phillips says, "Yes, ma'am."
Earlier when you were just talking about having to spend or having to focus more time on Aaron in terms of academics, I found myself thinking, you know, a parent who does that is a parent who is attentive to the differences between their kids.
Yes, it's
And
not
not in a
one
bad
rule
way.
fit all.
It's not
One
one
rule
rule.
fit.
It's right.
So
Yeah, but
hashtag not one rule fit all with your children.
yes, but you learn that as you go along.
Hmm.
Yeah, you learn that as you go along. And then I have to also ensure that while I'm paying this special attention to my son, that my daughter does not feel neglected or left out. So I have to
Right.
make time for her also.
But I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie. I don't know if it's special attention as it's special attention in that area
Yeah,
where,
it's in that
right,
area.
where you would have more attention in another area with your baby girl. You wouldn't be, so it's not that Aaron gets
More
All the
more
attention.
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 It's that it's situated like Kamala said, you're a wise mother, and so you don't one thing doesn't fit
One
both,
size,
one
right?
size
One
doesn't
size
fit
doesn't
both
fit all.
children, but you minister, you parent each child where they are. Wouldn't that be a fair statement?
I think so. I believe so,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so talk to us about Aaron becoming 12.
Well, he's 13 now.
No, right, I know, but I want to hear about
Oh,
12,
yeah. Oh,
and then
you
we
mean what I
slide
did?
into, yes.
Oh, you remember that? Okay, so he turned 12 on May 12th, and that's considered a golden birthday. I think that's an American thing, but I adopted it. So he turned 12 on the 12th, and I gave him 12 presents. So he woke up to 12 presents, and he was delighted with that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's when his voice started to change.
His voice is
It
deep.
is, it is. Um, yeah, that's when his voice started to change. He's now definitely more conscious of his appearance. He is at the moment his obsession is with combing his hair. The hair is going to have to go in
Brushing his hair.
September. No, he's combing it
Oh,
because
okay.
he has a little afro. So he's been just, yeah, with a
Okay.
pick, just combing and combing and combing away.
Yeah.
But of course, the school does not allow high hair, so that's
Okay.
gonna go in September. So he's enjoying it while it
While
lasts.
it's there.
Yeah.
Carrie, going back to the progression of the kids, Christine is asking, do you think there's a stereotype where boys versus girls is concerned?
Certainly in Jamaica, I can say yes, there is. That was actually a topic of debate recently when the primary exit profile results were revealed. Now, the primary exit profile or PEP is an entrance exam or an exit exam that they use to take students out of primary school into high school, so out of grade 6 into grade 7. And what they found is that the girls did better than the boys in all the categories: mathematics, language arts, social studies, science, and the ability test. So then the argument came up, should we separate the boys and the girls when preparing for these exams? And people are saying that the literature suggests, or scientific studies suggest, that yes, you will get a better result if you separate boys and girls. But I don't know that we're going to be able to do that anytime soon. So
So
we may
the
continue
hold on,
to see
separate
those
boys and
results.
girls. Talk to
But
us a
even,
little bit
but
about.
even from my experience at high school and now as an adult, a lot of the boys who I went to high school with are now doing well as adults. So I definitely have hope that what they say about boys being late bloomers is true.
So, Carrie, because I know that in like Muslim countries, the boys learn in a separate. Well, the poor girls don't even learn past certain age.
In some countries, right? In
Right, in
some
some
Muslim
countries.
countries, they pull the girls.
But so in Kuwait, what's the story in Kuwait? Do the girls learn in Kuwait?
I believe so.
And do they learn together or is it separate? Because I'm trying to see if there's a model that's already doing that where they're teaching them separately and what the results is there
I
for the
mean,
boys. That'd be interesting.
Well, we have boys and girls
Yeah, can we have boys' school?
schools
Yes,
here
yes,
in
yeah.
Jamaica. We have high schools that are all girls.
Yeah, because
Both
Amir
my
goes to
kids,
all
yeah,
girls school.
my daughter goes to an all girls school. My son goes to an all boys school.
Right.
Um, so
And in your son's school, how are the scores in comparison to Holy Mary? What is the school?
immaculate,
Immaculate Holy
Holy
Mary.
Mary.
In comparison to Immaculate.
Well, I can't speak for all the scores. Um, uh, what do you call that? A ranking was recently released of all the high schools, and I know the girls' school, Immaculate, that Amira attends, is number one in terms of CSEC passes. I don't remember where my son's school, which is Kingston College, falls, but I do know, I firmly believe that the teachers at Kingston College understand that they are teaching young men and they have crafted an approach to teaching young men, which I believe is different from the approach taken at Immaculate Conception High School. So my son just completed grade seven. The grades are a mixed bag. And I'm expecting, so it's varied. It varies from high to some low scores. I think maybe the highest score is like about at 80%, while at Immaculate, the highest score for grade seven could be in the 90s.
Hmm.
But I don't think it's fair to compare them at the moment. But I do know that the approach taken at different schools is definitely gender based, I'd say.
I don't, I don't, I don't know if this is a relevant question right now or it's for another day, Kamala. But how then did we, or how is it, if this is true and this maintains throughout, how then is it that later in society we have a patriarchal society? And I don't know that that's a relevant, I don't know that that pertains to us right now, but that's probably something that, whatever.
that
Whatever. I
that's a
see you all
question that you
smile.
yeah, that's a question that you need to also think about too.
Yeah, I see
Um
you all smile. You see,
it's
that's why. Anyway, okay.
it's just something that has been that that's just been reinforced
Yeah.
um right across the world, I'd say. Even in the western countries, you will find, well, here in Jamaica there was a study some time ago, or there was news that Jamaica had a one of the highest numbers, is that the word, of female managers
Mm-hmm.
in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to go back to look for that, but they definitely said that about Jamaica, and I don't know if that is a reflection of the education system.
But it's
And
still a patriarchal society.
it definitely still is. So they were trying to. There's a Bureau of Gender Affairs that's trying to get equality or get more gender equality. So I think they have mandated, in terms of the gender makeup of boards, for example, public bodies. They've mandated that there needs to be a certain number of women compared to men, and so on. So that, I guess that's part of their efforts to gender mainstream.
Good. Make sure that.
I think that it is a pretty important question, not necessarily from the standpoint of how does it happen, how does it translate
But how do we
over
fix it?
into, but how do even this stage of parenting where you have teenagers,
Oh, good
Carrie,
question.
you know, how do you parent both your children to
Yeah.
have a mindset of equality versus
Ooh, that's
something
good.
else?
That's good,
Yeah.
Kamala.
Yes, that and for me, having a boy and a girl,
At that close
I
age.
get the opportunity to speak with my son about how to treat females, to speak with my daughter about how to treat males, and what I try to emphasize for them is respect. You have
Hmm.
to be respectful. You have to respect your sister. Your sister must respect you. Both of you must respect each other. Respect goes both ways. You should also respect me. I am your
Hmm.
I am your mother. If I give you instructions, you are to carry these out. Otherwise, I could say that you are being disrespectful.
Yeah.
So I'm big on emphasizing respect. Um,
Hashtag respect each other.
yeah, and I do believe that as parents we have an awesome responsibility. I think some people take it for granted, but I think it is an awesome responsibility because you are molding a future adult.
Yep.
You are molding a gentleman who should know how to treat women. If you do not show him how, then he's just simply not going to know how. He's just going to treat her perhaps like he does one of his bros. And then you should also teach your young ladies how to, be respectful to not just herself, but to somebody of the opposite sex, and what it is that she should expect, what type of behavior she should expect
Yes.
from somebody of the opposite sex.
All right, Carrie, I want to throw us. Go ahead.
No, but probably you should go because I have a
No,
different. I have a
I'm.
different direction in mind.
Well, maybe you're going where I was going to go. So go ahead.
What my question was gonna be, what have you found to be some of the more, and we're already talking about respect and equality and those kind of things, but what are some other areas that you have found to be unique in terms of parenting teenagers versus,
The
preteen,
babies, yeah.
toddlers, babies?
Yeah.
What's unique here?
All right. So, you know, teenagers are on the cusp, I guess, of adulthood. I mean, they still have some years, but
They're
they
smelling
are,
themselves.
yes, they are becoming independent now. So they will, as someone in the comment said, they will challenge your authority more if it is that you ask them to do something. It's not a just blindly doing it, but it is now a discussion. They're trying to negotiate to say, all right, if I do this, can I do this, and so on. So what I've been doing is, instead of just simply shutting them up or saying, "Oh, you got to do it because I say you have to do it," I entertain the discussion, but then I try to be firm to say, "Okay, you need to ensure you clean your room. You need to ensure you wash up after yourself. If you use something, you need to clean it up. If you spill something, you need to wipe it up." Um, and yeah, they definitely are challenging your authority, and trying to assert their personhood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is normal, and like you said, you are entertaining the development in a controlled way.
Yeah. Not just
Yeah,
normal.
I'm
I would.
definitely trying.
It's
Yeah.
natural.
Yeah. I would
It's a
go.
natural progression.
I would go as far as to say it's a healthy
Healthy
progression. Because
progression.
just like Carrie said, you are you're responsible for developing a new adult.
Right.
And without those skills of negotiation, without those skills of being able to critically think, that you gain from these conversations and this dialogue, your child is better prepared to be that adult
That
that needs to
adult.
use those skills.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, well, I think Kamala would agree. A lot of the adults with issues will say that it started off from something that happened in their childhood.
Now that you say that, I'm going to take us out into deep water. So we were at the dinner table one evening, and our child, we were having a conversation about life and just how life was. Um, Christine said, "I think I talk more with my son being a teenager
Same,
than when he
same,
was
Christine,
younger."
same. I mean, before you go into your deep water, Winston, I'd just say, like, so my best friend has a 5 year old. I think he's 6. He's turning 6 this year. A 5 year old and a 2 year old. And so she has different challenges than what I have with my teens. And I was talking to her, and I was like, "Boy, it's a lifelong commitment. You're still gonna have challenges. They're just different challenges
Different,
when
right?
they get to
Yeah.
that stage." Yeah.
Um, and so I said we were having a long discussion about growing up and the challenges with growing up. And then I said to Ari, they're teenagers that cut themselves. And then there was this pregnant pause. The room could be cut with, and um, immediately I realized what was happening and realized that my teenager was in a whole bunch of trouble. You mentioned that the challenges that people face in difficult years later on in their lives, um, sometimes we can search for it and see where it started happening around this time of life. Um, Talk to us some about the different challenges that would come along as you're raising these teenagers.
So teens, they're at that phase, especially early teens are at that phase where they're preoccupied with their appearance. Mine,
Bullying,
yes, the comments of friends carry
yes,
so much weight you would not believe.
Mm-hmm.
But what I try to do is counter it with positive reinforcement. So I just keep
yes,
saying, you are beautiful, you are handsome, you are smart. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
the whatever the friends say, pardon me, that's what they're going off. But I really try my best to just keep reinforcing to them. And they will say, oh, you have to say that because you're our mother. You
Yeah,
will
yeah.
say that because you're our mother, and so on. But I still do my best to try because I realize that the noise, these children are really dealing with a lot of noise, especially with social media.
Mm-hmm.
um they're just dealing with a lot. I think they're dealing with much more than the generation before, or two generations before.
Yeah.
So we really have to be, we're parenting now in a different environment than our parents did. So that has to be taken into consideration. I find that my teens, they like validation from their peers.
Mm-hmm.
They don't always come and tell me when the peers say something nice, but if the peers ever say something that it can be negative, so for
Yeah.
example, one of them told my daughter, oh, she looks like a man. She does not look like a man. I just keep saying, oh, but you don't look like a man, and I just keep trying to reinforce. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
so
it's
Carrie, why is it, and let's go back to us as teenagers and
oh, but
us as adults.
and I will also say that I think parents, armed with the information that we are armed with, and the fact that a lot of times, um therapy, I think we should normalize therapy,
Hold
normalize.
on, don't let's hold on with that. We're coming with that. We're coming.
Okay.
Hold on with that. I want for us to go back to when we were children.
Yes.
And I know we say it's different, but I don't know how different. I want to go back to us being children. I'm a pastor, Kerry, and 10 members could tell me how great my sermon was. That one member that says something negative, that's why I go home and tell Kamala about. Why is it that their peers' validation of them is so? For example, your daughter is one of the most beautiful children I know. And I remember this story. And I was actually partially upset at her for even believing that foolishness. Why is it that their peers' validation is so important to them? Why is it that people's validation of us is so important? And maybe both of you could tag team on this response.
I think Kamala could take that one, because even adults, that's why
Yeah.
people are so obsessed over likes on social
Yeah.
media.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think I lost the last part of what Carrie said.
No,
No,
yeah,
she
I'm saying people are so obsessed over. So
Okay.
for some of us, it's not something that goes away. It's not something that's only applicable to teens. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that some people carry throughout their lives, and that is seeking validation from their peers. They must have 100 likes on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, or Instagram, otherwise they're taking the post down, and so on.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think there are a couple of things that play into this. So it was many moons ago. I read this really interesting book, the name of which I can't recall now. But it talked about, and we talked about this, it talked about how um, as children, we're taught to value the opinions of others more than our own. So, for instance, you have a little kid that does a little drawing, and it's not the greatest drawing in the world, right? But as parents, as caregivers, as people in our life, we go, "Oh my gosh, it's the greatest thing ever," right? And while that on the surface sounds great, it also focuses the attention back on me, the person giving the praise. And so I learned as a kid that I need to seek somebody else out to get validated for the thing that I'm doing.
So Kamala, how? And I'm not. I'm just to inform your response. How is Erickson's theory of attachment um, coupled with this affirmation piece? How do you reconcile not praising the child?
Well, this piece is not necessarily Ericksonian.
I know it's not.
But Erickson was more on the developing personality and how there are different tasks that we go through at different stages of our life. And so as kids, we go through the task of, learning trust and mistrust, learning how to
doesn't praise encourage trust and mistrust?
Yes.
Or the lack of praise?
It does. At the same time, how do I do the praise? How do I bring this child into also the understanding and experience that, oh, this feels good to you also because you did it, you accomplished it, right? So instead of turning it around and going, oh my gosh, you did such a great job. Wow, you did a great job. How did that make you feel?
Acknowledge how you.
And so now by the time you get to the teenage years where you're starting to make a shift, because like Carrie talked about earlier, you're making the shift into adulthood. And you're starting to become more independent.
Self-motivated.
You're trying to differentiate from your parents. So of course you're going to turn towards your peers to give you more validation than your parents. But I've already learned the lesson that my validation comes from somebody else. People. So now the other people who are more important to say
in that moment, in that time period,
become the people that I
get. So we did this to our children.
and the peers are not necessarily seized with they don't feel like, okay, I should be validating my friend.
No, because they themselves are seeking validation.
Exactly.
Oh Lord.
And in the absence of validation, something else will come in to fill that gap. So if I don't feel validated, but I want to feel better, I may turn my attention to something else that helps me to feel stronger.
Wow. So Carrie, how have you been? So you positive reinforcement.
Just talking about the issues they're facing, helping them working through some of it, without, of course. Because as a parent, I will say that sometimes if a child is bullying your child, maybe you would want to go to that child and say, hey, what are you doing? But of course, as an adult, I know better than to go approach someone's child, because I would definitely never want any adult approaching my child. So I would, if it gets serious, I would expect that the parent would come to me as a parent, as opposed to going and approaching my child. And that's the same approach I would take. But when my children have their issues with their peers, when they get comments and so on, I try to create an environment where they can come and discuss it with me. I know they're probably not telling me everything. And then what I have with them is something that Aaron may tell Amira, then Amira will come to me, and vice versa.
Mine. They're online and
well, I mean, they're not watching right now.
Right, but there's a replay, so there's mine.
Yeah. But I mean, without giving away the source, I will try. If it's a serious enough problem, I will try to intervene. And that has happened, where my kid didn't tell me, but he told his sibling, or she told her sibling, and then I had to, step in. And I didn't get any backlash from them to say, oh, mom, you're meddling. They were grateful for the intervention. And like I was saying earlier, I was saying our generation should normalize therapy, normalize seeking assistance. And I had to do that at one point when I found that the issues were too much for me. So I had to take one of them to see a professional just to talk and so on. And I believe that was very useful.
As did we.
As did we, yeah.
Let's go to some comments real quick, Mom.
Yep.
So Lasagna earlier said 12 is about that age that 12 is about that age the mom turns the boy child to dad's care. They start to challenge authority. Okay, and Carrie, I dealt with that earlier. And then Christine. But now Lasagna says, allow an open door of communication. Even if we want to scream, maintain your composure. It could mean the difference between life and death when they leave the nest. And I think Elder Phillips has an authoritative voice on this, not only as a parent, but as an educator, where she gets to see some of the stuff that we're talking about playing out in real time in front of her at school.
And I think Carrie made a great point earlier. She used the words modeling.
Yes.
Like what we model as parents is what our kids are going to take as their blueprint to the world.
Yes. How do we normalize? And I think it's 8:52. See, Kamala told you the time was just going to go like this.
Yes.
How do we normalize therapy for our children? And I think some of that is being taken care of, for all we say about this time period that we live in. I think because Ari told us she wanted therapy. That wasn't something we had to bring to her. She told us she wanted therapy. So how do we normalize that, especially within our Black community?
Going back to what Elder Phillips said, if we model open communication, I think that's one of the first steps. Because what we used to do back in the day is that we sat in silence, and what happened in the family stayed in the family, and all of this business, right? We were always about, let me hold on to all this thing, hush, right? And we've shifted that somewhat, but in Black communities, in church communities,
especially
we
church,
need to do more of, let's be open with each other about the actual challenges that we're facing. And it starts with us as the older generation modeling that same vulnerability.
So I want to pause for a quick second to just ask if you realize you just said us as the older generation.
We are the older generation.
We are.
Carrie, I just want to make sure, Carrie, I just want to make sure she heard herself. As she just said us as the older generation. Lord have mercy on me.
And I mean, we are preparing adults. I think that's something that we should strive to remember, that we are preparing adults. And something that's always struck me, and I know I've said it to you before, Winston, is that you spend more time as an adult than you do as a child. And I've always said to adults, I've always said it every chance I get, you need to not, let me use the words, be unnecessarily mean, or just be mean to children at all. Because you can remember people who were terrible to you as a child.
Come on, Carrie.
And now you and them are your peers, your adults. And if it is that you wanted to get your lick back,
go on, Carrie. I'm trying to get her on the screen by herself. This is good.
If it is you wanted to get your lick back, you could. So I've always said, and I've heard countless stories about kids who they grow up and they see people who were nasty to them, and they just got revenge. Another experience I had recently. So the kids went to camp for the first time ever. They spent, I think it was 8 days. They went on a Tuesday, came back on a Tuesday. And I believe I'll send them again next year. I think they got an opportunity to be independent. They had to be independent. And I remember something happened at camp where Amira tried to call me, but the reception was very poor. So she had one of those phones that was not a smartphone. And she sounded a little down, and I was wondering what was going on with her. And so I reached out to the chaplain of the camp, who's a friend of mine, and I asked him, "Did you see Amira? What's going on with her?" And he said, "Yes, she's kind of down, that she hasn't found nobody has asked her to the banquet. And my first reaction was, what? If I had known that this was something that would happen, I would not have sent her to camp. What is all this pressure about finding somebody for the banquet? But then good sense prevailed, and I said, well, this is something Amira is going to have to figure out on her own. This is something this is perhaps a learning moment that she needs to have. So I think sometimes the default could be helicopter parenting, where you just want to shield and protect them from everything, but that is not practical and that's not helpful,
Right.
because at the end of the day, they're going to be without you at some
Yes.
point, and they're going to have to survive on their own in the world. But things worked out for her. She eventually got a date to banquet, and all went well.
Yes.
That was just a aha moment for me.
And you know what? I think that is and should be an aha moment for all of us as parents, because some parents, not all, but I know definitely parents, especially us from a Caribbean perspective, we tend to be helicopters. We want to shield them from everything. We want to make sure life is perfect. But just like you said, that doesn't really prepare them for adulthood. Sometimes some of these experiences, not all of them, but sometimes some of these experiences are learning opportunities of how do I manage life.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that you said that. We are at 8:58, out of time. Look at that.
We did it.
We did it. We did it. So this has, honestly, Carrie, this has been a great conversation from my perspective. Even I'm there with Ari at 15, not there with the other two, and it's always good, I think,
And
for
Ari is the sweetest. Ari is the sweetest.
has her own challenges too, because she's going through that stage of life, right?
Yeah.
Elder Philip said it's good to allow them to fail. These are life lessons, and I think that's a good note for us to come to kind of close up on, because the truth is, as parents, as individuals, but I'm going to focus in on parents, since that's who we're talking about tonight. We're talking about raising teenagers. It's so important for us to have these conversations with each other,
Yes.
so we can learn from each other. Like you said earlier, somebody has been through this experience before and has some insight that maybe I don't on this part of parenting. And so it's so important for us to share with each other. All right, guys, we are almost out of time. Thank you so much for everybody who commented and shared so far. We are going to spin our little wheel to see who is going to be our winner tonight. I know Annika is pulling that up. Couple of hashtags to remember is hashtag respect each other. That was a good one, right? And I think we can apply that across the board, to our kids, to ourselves, to everybody involved. All right, let's see. Christy. Oh, Nandala Gloria. I think you'll have to spin it again. I don't think she is still on. Annika, spin that wheel one more time. One more time. Oh, Christine, hey, you are the one tonight. Head on over to www.kwministries.net/claim your prize, ma'am. You know how it works. Add your information and we will follow through with instructions. Carrie, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining in with us. We apologize for Winston, the W in our duo. He had to step away.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Remember, guys, if it's Monday night, you are live with KW. Have a good night.